parks caught in the crosshairs of government shutdown. Let me point out that both senators from New Hampshire, Senators Shaheen and Hassan, have repeatedly voted to keep the government closed, and New Hampshire's national park sites closed by extension. How about New Jersey? Here's a headline yesterday: hospital at-home telehealth programs on hold amid government shutdown. You got two Democrat senators in New Jersey, Andy Kim and Cory Booker, and they have repeatedly voted against funding these programs, which New Jerseyans rely upon daily. Here's one from Michigan. Michigan nonprofit leaders said a shutdown would be at best disruptive and at worst potentially devastating for local communities. There are two Democrat senators.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little
Gary
trolling.
Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, and they have voted now 5 times to enable this devastation upon their communities. One more, I could do this all day. Here's one more from CBS News. Government shutdown fears have Colorado food banks bracing for potential new visitors. You guessed it, 2 Democrat senators from Colorado, Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper. They keep voting over and over to keep the government closed. Democrats claim they want to negotiate, but that is already happening in a bipartisan, bicameral fashion. And we brought in the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee this morning, Tom Cole, who can talk more about that. But I just want to say this as I yield to Mr. Cole, and then you'll hear from the rest of the leaders, and I'll take some questions. There is one sad and inescapable fact that no one can forget here. This shutdown is nothing more than political cover for Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. They are worried about the Marxists flanked in their Democrat Party. The Marxists are about to elect a mayor in New York City. That's Chuck Schumer's state, and he's terrified that he's going to get a challenge from his far left. I've noted that Chuck Schumer is a very far left politician, but he's not far enough left for the communists, and they're coming for him. And so he has to put up his dukes and show a fight. So they picked a fight on something that's not even related at all to the shutdown and the funding that we should have gotten done by the end of September. We just need a stopgap measure to give us a little more time to get the job of Congress done. They refuse to do it because they're playing politics, and real Americans are paying the price for it. But let me introduce Chairman Cole, and he can tell you about some of these discussions that have been going on. Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Usually when I follow the Speaker, I usually think I should just say what he said and excuse myself right away. But in this case, it is pretty easy. I mean, we've had a pretty decent year in the House Appropriations Committee, all 12 bills out of committee before September 30th. 3 that we are in negotiations on with the Democrats. Those negotiations have gone very well. We're prepared pretty quickly to close once the government's reopened. We could get at least 3 bills done. The president could sign them in. Those things would be immune from a shutdown until the following September 30th. Then we'd pick another group of 3 or 4 bills that we would do in cooperation with our Democratic colleagues and start working on that. So the process, honestly, was moving along pretty well. And then we had unrelated demands, obviously related to repealing work the Congress had already done on Medicaid, and then these new discussions on subsidies. And I do want to point out, at least the bill we have right now in front of us doesn't even go till December 31st. I mean, these actions would still, we could do this work and still have time to turn around, as the president and our leadership has pointed out in both chambers, and sit down and talk about these other issues. But it's hard to do much when the negotiations aren't happening simply because the government is shut down. So again, we're prepared to work. I've got very talented counterparts on the Democratic side. They're good negotiators. We've negotiated a lot of labor issue bills together between Patty Murray, Rosa DeLauro, and myself, and obviously Susan Collins is one of the best legislators in the building. So it's not like we were going to have a hard time, I think, finding common ground, but you do have to restore the government for that to happen. Democrats are not likely to move bills while they've got the government shut down, because it suggests that absent that, we would be moving through the process as normal, and frankly, in a much better shape than we've been in recent years. So again, I'm just hopeful that my colleagues in the Senate, and it's worth pointing out, a majority of the Senate's already on our side, a bipartisan majority of 55. So this really does get down to Leader Schumer and the bulk of his caucus to simply shutting down the government over items unrelated to what we normally do in appropriation. I've mentioned this to both the speaker and the leader because they make these decisions, but, we should not be handling Medicaid on my committee. We should not be handling the Obamacare subsidies simply because we don't have the expertise or the jurisdiction to do either one of those things. What we can do is move the bills through the process and make sure that every soldier is paid, make sure that every air traffic controller is paid, make sure that the American people don't lose any services. So we're prepared to do that. Frankly, I think my Democratic colleagues are prepared to do that once we resolve this shutdown, and that's quite simply in the hands of Leader Schumer and the bulk of his caucus. When they make the mind that they want the government up and running, believe me, we'll move very quickly, and we'll try to move away quickly from a CR status to passing bills individually or in small groups and get folks up and working again and get the government restored and continue that process as we're supposed to do. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I just yield back.
Well, appreciate the work that Chairman Cole and the Appropriations Committee have done months and months ago to get us in a place where we would be ready to have all of the appropriations in a place where you can negotiate those differences. It was Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries who chose to take their toys and go home, all to appease the most radical elements of the far left, because Chuck Schumer is more concerned about his political job than he is about the jobs of millions of American families. American families' lives are at stake here. Whether or not we're going to be able to pay our troops, whether or not people can get on an airplane and go visit a relative or take a vacation, whatever their plans may have been, are being disrupted. Real lives of real people are being disrupted so that Chuck Schumer can show the far left Marxists in his party that he's having some kind of tantrum and fighting Donald Trump because he's afraid of the far left part of his political base. A lot of people say, what is this really about? And obviously you see Democrats trying to make it about things that have nothing to do with the basic funding of government, the bill that we passed here in this House just a few weeks ago. And in fact, a lot of Democrats are having buyer's remorse, but every one of us has a voting card. And weeks ago, Republicans and Democrats in the House had an opportunity to put this voting card in the machine and tell the American people where they stand on a government shutdown. And 99% of House Republicans voted yes to keep the government open while we negotiate our differences. And 99% of Democrats voted no to shut the government down. Some of them are having buyer's remorse, and I don't blame them. They're now realizing the dire consequences that their no vote caused to real families across America. Some of them are begging the speaker, please bring us back in so they can get another shot at this. You don't get a do-over. They picked the wrong side. They voted to shut the government down. They failed the test. But the good news is they can get bailed out by the Senate. If they really want to solve these problems, if they really want to make sure our troops get paid, which, by the way, we voted for, they voted against, they can call their 2 Democrat senators who have 5 times voted to shut the government down and say, today's the day you can make amends. Today's the day you can open the government up. We only need 4 more votes. It's not a large number. 4 Democrat senators have come to their senses and said, yes, let's open up the government and not have this charade continue, but it takes 4 more because Chuck Schumer wants to have a tantrum. Let me tell you what another senator just said yesterday about why this shutdown is going on. He said, quote, this is a Democrat senator yesterday, the point of this shutdown is not just suffering for suffering's sake, but to make a point. So you even have Democrat senators admitting that they're imposing suffering on the American people, but they just want to make a point? My God, millions of lives are at stake. They know they're inflicting suffering on the American people so they can make some kind of point. If you want to have a tantrum, this is not the 3rd grade. This is the lives of American people. Real lives are at stake. Real careers and families. Will they be able to pay their house note come the 15th? That's at stake. The safety of our air traffic control system so that some senator that wants to have a tantrum can make a point? I think the American people are getting sick of this charade that's going on. They know what the Democrats in the House did to shut the government down, but they also know that just 4 senators doing the right thing can turn this around and open the government back up again. And yes, we have big differences on a lot of things that we need to be negotiating on. All those bills that Chairman Cole and his appropriators sent out of committee, you can't have those negotiations while you're in a shutdown. And they know that, but they don't mind inflicting suffering on the American people because they want to make a point. I think the American people are going to start making points. People could pick up the phone and call their Democrat senator. We did a press call yesterday in the states of Georgia and Maryland, where all 4 senators there could literally end this today, but they've all been 5 times voting no on the bill to get the government back open. It was ironic. The Maryland delegation of Democrats held a press conference just days ago talking about how bad a shutdown will be for the state of Maryland. And they're right. The irony is they're the ones who voted to shut it down. Over 150 employees in the state of Maryland alone will be hurt, and their own Democrat delegation is saying how bad it's going to be, yet they're the ones who voted to inflict that, quote, suffering on the people of Maryland. This madness can end. This madness needs to end with sanity finally emerging.
The SR 167 express toll lanes look similar to the previous lanes, but the rules have changed. Drivers without passengers can pay to use them, and to continue to ride free, carpoolers will need a good-to-go flex pass, and motorcyclists will
don't want to have that suffering inflicted on them, and let 4 other of your Senate Democrat colleagues do the right thing for you. Let's end this. Our whip. Tom Emmer.
Eight days. We are now 8 days into the Democrats' shutdown. 8 days that our troops are not getting paid. Border Patrol agents are going without mission-critical funding. Federal workers are being forced to figure out how they're going to put food on the table for their families. All because Democrats would rather hold the American people hostage to appease their radical base than to pass our clean, nonpartisan government funding bill. As of this morning, Senate Democrats have had 5 opportunities to get the government up and running again for the people they were elected to serve. And the vast majority of them have voted no every single time. Their obstruction is not only a slap in the face to hardworking Americans whose livelihoods are being put at risk due to the Democrats' shutdown, it's also a slap in the face to the constituents who fund their salaries with the expectation that they fulfill their basic constitutional responsibilities. In my hand, I have more than a dozen pages of organizations from across the country representing Americans from every end of the political spectrum, echoing the exact same message. And that message is that government shutdowns solves nothing and hurts everyone. So to our Democrat colleagues in the Senate, enough with the political grandstanding. Do the right and responsible thing by passing the House's clean CR immediately. Americans are already hurting. People's jobs are at stake. You can and must end the political games and reopen the government today. And with that, I turn it over to our conference chair, Lisa McClain.
Good morning, everybody. Again and again, Democrats have chosen to put illegal aliens over hardworking Americans. That is not my opinion. That is fact. Read the bill. Democrats let millions of illegals pour in across our border under Joe Biden. Democrats gave them driver's license. Democrats allowed them to cast ballots in elections. And now Democrats are fighting. They are fighting to give illegals health care on your dime. Democrats want to take money out of your pockets and give them to illegal aliens so they can get government benefits. These aren't my opinions. These are actual facts. Go to the website and read the facts, right? But what Democrats do when they have no plan, no vision, and no leader, they have to misrepresent the truth. And they do that over and over again. And they think you, the American people, aren't going to notice. They're not going to notice. You're not going to notice that they're taking money out of your pockets and giving them to illegals. They're going to try and put their spin on it. But I challenge you, go to the website and read it for yourself. When Democrats have the choice between standing up for American people or catering to the illegal aliens, what do? They choose illegals every single time and time again. And that's exactly what they're doing again in this government shutdown fight. Democrats are putting illegals above American citizens. So I ask the Democrats, how long will it take you to put Americans first in this funding fight? I ask our senators, Senator Peters and Slotkin, when are you going to put the American people first? The people that elected you to represent them. How many times will you vote against our troops? I ask Senator Peters and Senator Slotkin, how many times are you going to vote not to pay our troops? How many times will you vote against moms and babies who rely on WIC? Against flood insurance? How many times will you vote to put illegals first and Americans last? The answer to that question is as long as the radical base keeps calling the shots. My two senators are pandering to their radical base as well. Republicans, however, are actually putting Americans first every single day. And why? Because that's our job. That's our duty. And quite frankly, that is our responsibility. And I call on the Democrats, especially the two Democrats from my state, Senator Peters and Senator Slotkins, please put the American people who you represent first.
We'll take a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
Speaker Johnson, thank you. Do you agree that the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois should be in prison?
Should they be in prison? Should the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois be in prison? I'm not the attorney general. I'm the Speaker of the House, and I'm trying to manage the chaos here. I'm not following the day-to-day on that. I do know that they've resisted the introduction of, or the offering of National Guard troops in Chicago, which is a terribly dangerous city and has been destroyed in the process of being destroyed under liberal Democrat governance and their terrible policies. I would just cite for you in response Exhibit A, which is the District of Columbia. All of you were able to walk safely into the Capitol today, and you can park your cars blocks away and walk back to your cars, and you're not in fear of having your purse snatched or your car being jacked or being assaulted. And why is that? Because President Trump had enough of it. He's a strong leader in the Oval Office, and he used the resources that were available to him, the National Guard, to bring order to the chaos. The Democrat mayor of the District of Columbia ultimately said, thank you so much for the reinforcements, and you're all enjoying the spoils of good policy and a return to the rule of law. If we could do that in the other major cities in the country where they're having terrible crime crises, that should be seen as a positive, and I think most Americans see it that way. If you're a resident of Chicago or New Orleans or one of these other Democrat-run cities, you've had enough. You're tired of your family walking in fear and not being able to enjoy their lives, and if President Trump can use the resources and do it in a lawful manner to allow National Guard troops to help bring order and restore the rule of law, that is something that is wildly popular with the American people. Now, if you have elected officials in some of these states who are committed to their radical, soft-on-crime ideology and defunding the police and all the things the Democrat Party championed for the last several years, and they want to stand by that, we encourage them to do so. We'll see what the people think about it. Yes, sir. Back row.
Speaker Johnson, a lot of the free health care for illegal aliens that you've been talking about is care provided in emergency rooms, which are required by federal law to care for anybody even if they can't pay, even if they're not a citizen, do you think that that law should be changed?
No, you're talking about EMTALA, which has been part of the law for most of my life. Emergency care is provided without question to anyone who comes in. If you're hemorrhaging and you show up in an emergency room, you get treated. That's something we all support. That's a very good law. We're in favor of it. You're cherry picking a tiny subset of the issues. We put, and go to my, it's still on the website, speaker.gov, look at page 57, section 2141 of Chuck Schumer's counter-proposal CR that he filed. There's 6 categories of things that they would like to restore funding to, and it adds up to $192.8 billion, almost $200 billion of hardworking taxpayer funds that would go to support illegal aliens and other non-citizens. Now, with regard to EMTALA, are we saying change the law? No. But one of the things they're doing, and one of the things that Chuck Schumer is advocating for and has filed in the law and is using as a leverage point to keep the government shut down, is he literally wants to reimburse hospitals more money for treating illegal aliens than American citizens. Fact. Go look it up. Go look on the website. Don't take my word for it. We're not doing that. If you're a young, pregnant American citizen woman who shows up in an ER and you get treated and they pay the hospital less for treating you than some illegal rabble-rouser who came in from some, South American country to do us harm, that is wrong. The Republican Party stands for common sense. In the big, beautiful bill, we fix that. And Chuck Schumer wants to unwind it, and it is unconscionable to me that he's inflicting all this pain on American citizens so they can play games and try to appease the radical left base. That's what this is. In fact, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 questions about federal worker pay. One, is it your understanding that federal workers will be repaid after this shutdown as part of current law? And 2, would you allow a UC, for example, for the military to ensure that they would be paid in the shutdown?
Those are 2 questions. Federal workers, it's my understanding that the law is that they would be paid. There is some other legal analysis that's floating around. I have yet had time to dig into and read that. But it has always been the case, that is tradition, and I think it is statutory law that federal employees be paid, and that's my position. I think they should be. They should not be subjected to harm and financial dire straits because Chuck Schumer wants to play political games. With regard to paying the troops, I want everybody to listen to me very carefully. Hakeem Jeffries and the House Democrats, as Leader Scalise said so well, are clamoring to get back here and have another vote because some of them want to get on record and say they're for paying the troops. We already had that vote. It's called the CR. Every Republican and at least one Democrat had the common sense to say, of course we want the government to stay in operation. Of course we want to pay our troops and our air traffic controllers and our Border Patrol agents, TSA, and everybody else. We did have that vote. The House, I keep saying the House did its job. We did that almost 3 weeks ago. And every Democrat in the House except one voted against it. They voted that they did not want the troops to be paid. They did not want TSA agents to be paid. They did not want air traffic controllers, Border Patrol agents, and all the rest. They live with that vote. They made that decision. The House is done. The ball is now in the Senate's court. It does us no good to be here dithering on show votes. We did it. We sent the product over. It is clean. It is 24 pages in length. It's the most bare minimum that's necessary to keep the lights on for the people. And Chuck Schumer and 43 of his colleagues, Democrats, continue to do the wrong thing. We're not having it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Democrats continue to allege that the Republican-controlled Senate can change the rules to push through the shutdown impasse. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is also now saying the same. Is there any validity to this, and what sort of precedent would that set for a future Democrat-controlled Senate?
Well, I'd lead the House, but the Senate has its own. Filibuster is a tradition over there that's been maintained by both parties whenever they've been in the majority for a long, long time, and they can make a very compelling case as to why that's true. Now, could you go nuclear and blow that all up and end the filibuster once and for all and allow everything for only majority party vote, 51 votes in the Senate? I mean, is it possible? Yes. Is it wise? You can have a lot of people who would tell you it's not. I mean, on the Republican side, I would be deeply concerned if the Democrats had a bare majority in the Senate right now. A Marxist ideology taking over the Democrat Party, do I want them to have no safeguards and no stumbling blocks or hurdles at all in the way of turning us into a communist country? I don't think that's a great idea. That's me. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they always say. And there are some safeguards in the process that were built in a long, long time ago to prevent one party just running roughshod. Now, there's a big contrast between what I just said and the issue that is before us today. We're not asking Chuck Schumer and the Democrats to do anything different than what they've always done. We've shown you the highlight reel. Chuck Schumer gave impassioned speeches as recently as 7 months ago in March of this year. He said, we have to keep the government open. It would be dangerous and harmful to the American people. He said after the vote, he went on CNN and said, I'm proud of that vote. I didn't like it, but we had to do that. He was right then. He is not right now. We're not asking the Democrats to do anything heroic. We're asking them to do their basic duty and responsibility, as Chairwoman McClain said. Keep the government open. The first responsibility, I'm sorry, I'm aggravated. The first responsibility of the government is to protect the people. And the people who are supposed to be protected are being completely cheated by Democrats in the Senate because they want to play politics. They hate Donald Trump. I mean, they have Trump derangement syndrome. It's very real. Listen to their own comments. And they have to show a fight at any cost. When does that cost become too high? In our view, it already has. They have another chance today to reopen the government. We'll see if they do the right thing. I pray that they do, because real people are being affected by the games here, and they're sick of it. Thanks so much.
Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know? At least for a while, until they learn
This
English
fall,
and they realize
join
they hate us
Dasha
too.
Burns as host of C-SPAN.
I'm not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo?
Suppressing things like the lab leak theory. White House Digital Director Rob Flaherty pressured platforms like Facebook and YouTube to censor all kinds of COVID-related speech. Joe Biden said Facebook was killing people. Last week, Chairman Cruz and the Senate Commerce Committee released a report that revealed more details about how the Biden administration, as part of this larger censorship operation, weaponized the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, into an agent of censorship pressuring big tech to police speech. The Biden administration's collusion with big tech and non-governmental organizations to censor speech infringed on the individual freedoms of millions of Americans to limit what they could say, what they could hear, and what they could read. Fortunately, President Trump won a historic victory, and on January 20th, 2025, the first day of his second presidential term, President Trump signed an executive order titled Restoring Freedom of Speech and Ending Federal Censorship. But the story of censorship does not begin and end with the federal government. Big tech was censoring long before presidential jawboning, and I imagine will continue to censor long after. Here are some instances of pre-Biden censorship. All of big tech censored the Hunter Biden laptop story. Google banned COVID skepticism. Twitter shadow banned and suspended conservatives. Facebook throttled posts from pages like The Federalist and the New York Post. Facebook flagged and removed posts questioning voter ID laws and ballot harvesting. Two of today's witnesses, Alex Berenson and Sean Davis, were direct targets of this censorship operation and were deplatformed, shadow banned, and silenced for their viewpoints. Congress should address this problem with decisive legislative action like my Collude Act or my Censorship Accountability Act, both of which hold big tech and government censors accountable. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses about what Congress and this committee can do to make sure that no American, regardless of their political leanings, ever learns that the federal government, trusted with protecting their First Amendment rights, is actually working to undermine them behind closed doors. Our founding fathers recognized that freedom of speech is vital. Protecting it is first and foremost in the Bill of Rights. While some argued that free speech was already protected because the Constitution did not give the government power to censor, the framers went further, affirmatively restricting government intrusion. The First Amendment is the beating heart of our Constitution. Free speech is not just instrumental, but an end to itself. In the digital age, with all the peril and possibility that accompanies it, the struggle for free speech is the struggle for civilization itself. I want to thank the witnesses for being here today and look forward to their testimony. And I will, before I turn it over to the ranking member for her opening remarks, request that Chairman Cruz's opening statement be entered into the record. Without objection, Ranking Member Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our witnesses. Thank you for joining us this morning. These issues of the media and consumers and free speech, very important issues for us to discuss. In an era where consumers are paying more, where not enough competition exists, where deals are getting done that lead to fewer choices, less local news, I do have an important question. Where is Chairman Carr? Americans are paying and spending more money on content that used to be free more than ever before. And just a few weeks ago, we witnessed a deeply troubling episode, the FCC chairman demanding ABC take immediate action against Jimmy Kimmel for tasteless remarks and saying, quote, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," end quote. A line that Senator Cruz rightly criticized as something, quote, right out of Goodfellas, end quote. Within hours, the nation's largest ABC affiliate, Nexstar and Sinclair, announced they would preempt the show indefinitely, and shortly thereafter, ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live altogether. While ABC, Nexstar, and Sinclair have since returned Mr. Kimmel to the air, that chain of events should alarm every American. Because the power of the FCC was never meant to weaponize against a president or political targets. Let me be clear, Chairman Carr does not have the authority to police speech, nor does he or the White House finds offensive. He does not have the authority to threaten license based on content decisions. And this is especially true when those same companies have mergers and licensing pending before the FCC. That is exactly the kind of political interference, chilling effect on free speech that the First Amendment was designed to prevent. We need to hold Chairman Carr accountable for these threats, and that's why I've called on us to have a hearing, and hopefully that will happen sometime in the near future. There is a need to have oversight on this, and I hope that this hearing does happen without further delay. Professor Volokh, am I saying that right, Volokh? Thank you, said in his testimony, quote, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr's statement about Jimmy Kimmel may likewise have threatened retaliation in a way that would violate the First Amendment, end quote. So the point on this, there is broad agreement. Free expression is not a partisan issue. It is the bedrock of our democracy. So this is in a long list of issues about the First Amendment. I think the president is making pretty much a standard issue. Just last week, the federal court found that the administration violated the First Amendment by arresting, detaining, and deporting non-citizen students and faculty members for their pro-Palestinian advocacy. This follows the White House revocation of the Associated Press's credentials for refusal to use the term, quote, Gulf of Mexico, clearly an attempt to police the language and intimidate free speech. Meanwhile, the administration continues to wield the full power of the federal government to retaliate against law firms the president doesn't like and threaten funding for universities he disfavors. It is alarming to see the administration use its regulatory and informal authority to unlawfully infringe on free speech, the free press, and the First Amendment. And it's important that we also understand the broader context here. That is why, Mr. Kimmelman, I'm so glad to see you here today. Local journalism in America is already under extraordinary strain. The Commerce Committee has documented how online platforms monopolize advertising, siphon revenue away from local newspapers and broadcasters, and the result has been newsroom closures, layoffs across the country, and even as the public trust in local journalism remains at an all-time high. At the same time, media consolidation has been concentrated into fewer hands. Since 2005, the U.S. has lost almost one-third of its newspapers. This year alone, 127 newspapers closed. Nearly 55 million Americans have limited or no access to local news, disproportionately affecting rural areas. That leaves new outlets more vulnerable to political and corporate pressures and leaves the public without further resources of getting to true competition, which I believe gets us to the truth. If Chairman Carr can threaten one network over a single late-night host and his message, what kind of message does that send to local broadcasters in Seattle or Houston? Do they lose their license if they're reporting or they're crossing the White House? This kind of intimidation undermines the very foundation of the free press. I want to be clear, protecting a free press does not mean ignoring the dangers of harmful hate speech. I've expressed concerns about companies like Facebook, Google, and X on issues that really did threaten the lives of individuals. And I know that we will hear a lot about what the Biden administration did in these areas. But let's not forget, the Supreme Court rejected allegations of the Biden administration censorship because the record showed that social media companies, quote, continued to exercise their independent judgment, end quote, and had, quote, independent incentives to moderate content, end quote. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about this. Persuading companies to enforce their own content moderation policies is not the same as threatening them with retaliation. And that is precisely what Chairman Carr did when he publicly threatened ABC, an entity over which the FCC holds direct regulatory power, to take action over the speech the administration did not like. Holding companies accountable for amplifying harm is not the same as expressing constitutional protected speech the president finds politically inconvenient. That is what we should be focusing on today, making sure the FCC as a federal agency cannot use its authority to threaten or intimidate the media, to ensure the license decisions are based on the law and not on political coercion. I hope today we can speak clearly about this and do what we can to make sure that we show that free speech is something we all agree on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look forward to hearing from the witnesses.
Thank you, Ranking Member. One point of clarification for the record: Murphy versus Missouri was not decided that way. It was sent back to lower court for additional arguments on standing, not on the merits. I would like to introduce our witnesses for today. Our first witness is Mr. Eugene Valek, a senior fellow with the Hoover Institution at Stanford University and a professor of law emeritus at UCLA School of Law. He's an expert in First Amendment law, and his writings have been cited over 300 court opinions, including 10 Supreme Court cases. Welcome. Our second witness is Mr. Alex Berenson, an author, independent journalist, and victim of the Biden administration's embargo on free speech. I look forward to hearing from Mr. Berenson and his story and what we can do to preserve speech online. Our third witness is Mr. Sean Davis, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of The Federalist, a conservative news outlet that was subject to censorship and demonetization efforts for speaking out against the COVID-19 shutdowns. And our final witness is Mr. Gene Kimmelman, a senior policy fellow at Yale's Tobin Economic Policy Center and a senior research fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School's Center for Business and Government. And at this point would recognize Mr. Valek for your own opening statement. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. This is a topic that is, I think, very important and something that I've been very interested in myself. I should also say, by sheer accident, turns out that today is 50 years to the day since my parents brought me to the United States from the then Soviet Union. So thank you to the United States of America for letting me in. Very, very glad to be here. I wanted to speak briefly about the First Amendment law on the subject, both that which is settled and that which is not entirely certain. So one thing that I think is worth noting is that the word jawboning is sometimes used in two different senses. One sense is coercion, when the government is essentially threatening someone with retaliation as a means of suppressing either that person's speech or getting that person to suppress somebody else's speech. A second one is what I call persuasion and maybe pressure short of coercion, when the government is kind of urging people, some people might say again, pressuring people to restrict again either their own speech or other people's speech. So the government coercion is generally unconstitutional. I think, indeed, in the remarks of Chairman Carr seem to be an attempt at coercion. Whether or not they actually caused the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel, I think they were an attempt to do something the Constitution does not allow. Just last year, the Supreme Court found in NRA v. Vulo that the National Rifle Association had adequately alleged coercion on the part of New York government authorities aimed at trying to get insurance companies to limit ties to the NRA as a means of trying to interfere with the NRA's political advocacy. So that is pretty well settled, that that's a constitutional problem. Now, what about persuasion? Well, in some situations, the government is entitled to urge entities to not speak. You can imagine a situation where a police chief calls up a newspaper and says, look, I'm not trying to coerce you. I know I can't coerce you. You can publish this article you're about to publish, but It's going to interfere with us catching the criminals. And you wouldn't want that, right? So could I just ask you, please, to do this? You know, some amount of that has got to be permissible. Or to take another example, as to misinformation, somebody calls up, a reporter says, you're about to publish this article or this op-ed, and it's just false. It's just wrong. Don't you want to be corrected on this? Again, some amount of that, it seems to me, has to be constitutionally permissible. At the same time, there is a complication because the line between coercion and persuasion is often very hard to draw. And that's particularly true when the speaker has power over the listener. The Supreme Court has most clearly recognized this in the employment context. Employers are entitled to talk to their employees, including about unionization. They're entitled to explain why they think unionizing would be a mistake. But the court has recognized that in looking at what the employer says and seeing if the employer is speaking coercively, one has to appreciate that the employee is dependent of the employer and may pick up coercive messages, even in situations where it's not express on the face of the statement. And I think the same thing is true when the government, which is a very powerful regulator, is talking to people in a regulated industry. There are times when what might sound on its face, or let's say just on the bare paper, might look like it's not coercive, may in fact in context be quite coercive. Another concern is the merger of government and private power, when it's not just kind of occasional conversations, but a systemic mechanism for trying to restrict speech. An analogy might be a few amendments down in the Fourth Amendment. If you have a roommate and you notice some evidence of crime and you call up the police can use that evidence because that's not a government search. The police didn't search for it. You did. On the other hand, if the police call you up and say, hey, you know, not trying to coerce you, but could you please rummage through your roommate's papers? That does become Fourth Amendment, a search subject to the Fourth Amendment. Precisely because it's encouraged, substantially encouraged by the police. The police become enmeshed with the private search. So that suggests that there's something similar may apply to the First Amendment. So let me just close with suggesting that this is in fact the right body to be dealing with a lot of these concerns. That some of these problems can only be solved through statutory action, through laws that maybe limit attempts at systemic persuasion and systemic suppression of speech, even if it's not technically coercive, at laws that facilitate finding information about that, and at laws that actually provide a cause of action, which the Congress has for over a century provided against state governments, but provide against the federal government as well.
Thank you very much. We'll now recognize Mr. Alex Berenson to deliver his opening statement.
Senator Schmidt, committee members, thank you for giving me the chance to speak on this crucial topic. On August 28, 2021, Twitter, as it was then called, permanently suspended my account, supposedly for violating its COVID-19 misinformation rules. The ban deprived me of my largest and most vital platform for my journalism at a time when many Americans were eager to hear what I had to say about COVID and the mRNA vaccines and viewed what I wrote millions of times a day. Twitter's decision was no accident. It came after a deliberate and relentless campaign by the Biden administration, as well as at least one senior Pfizer board member, to violate my First Amendment rights. Led by Andrew M. Slavitt, an official in the Biden White House, the administration began pressuring Twitter to silence me almost as soon as President Biden took office, with both public and private attacks on my reporting. Frontline and senior Twitter employees viewed what was happening to me with dismay. Going back to 2020, the company had previously defended my right to speak as third parties demanded I be censored because Twitter believed that it should be a place where free speech and debate were encouraged. Ultimately, at the time of my suspension, Twitter's top executives, including then Chief Executive Jack Dorsey, secretly believed the company should not have suspended me. But the Twitter lobbyists who faced the Biden administration's pressure most directly went around them to orchestrate my ban. In the words he wrote to another Twitter official just days before he silenced me, this lobbyist hoped, quote, to keep the target off our back. None of this is speculation. Thanks to internal emails and other documents that Twitter turned over to me before Elon Musk took over, and more documents that Musk voluntarily and graciously turned over after he bought the company, I have hard proof of everything I've just told you. In fact, after I sued Twitter in December 2021, over the ban, the company admitted I had not broken its rules and that my tweets, quote, should not have led to his suspension, my suspension. The company even reinstated me in July 2022. Again, that's before Elon bought Twitter. By then, though, I'd already suffered, and so had a lot of people who were depending on my reporting to help them think about COVID vaccines and COVID lockdowns. In losing my access to Twitter, I lost my best chance to offer Americans my dissenting views on the Biden administration's COVID vaccine mandates that the Supreme Court would later strike down. Federal District Judge Jessica G.L. Clark laid out all these facts in two rulings she made this year on a 2023 lawsuit I brought against the Biden administration and senior officials at Pfizer for their censorship. In fact, in a ruling just last week, Clark noted that, quote, on the merits, the federal government has now conceded my claim that the Biden administration unconstitutionally violated my First Amendment rights in 2021. Yet in the same ruling, Clark still dismissed my lawsuit. That may sound impossible. A federal judge agreed my constitutional rights had apparently been violated, yet said my lawsuit over the violation could not move forward. But it's true. The Supreme Court has made it essentially impossible for me or anyone to win monetary damages for violations of their First Amendment rights by the federal government. As the law now stands, federal officials can run censorship campaigns like the one the Biden administration carried out against me with impunity. At worst, they may face an injunction, but they will never have to pay for doing so, for violating our most basic right, the right to speak freely. So it's open season for government censorship. This loophole is even more expansive and dangerous when it comes to federal efforts to jawbone, pressure, or outright threaten third parties like Twitter into silencing the speech of their users, employees, or business partners. That's true whether these third parties are legacy media companies, new social media giants, or other types of businesses. As a practical matter, users are generally not privy to the communications between federal officials and the companies, so they have no way of proving the pressure existed or that it led to their censorship. My case is exceptional because of the documents I have proving my rights were violated. Yet even so, I've been unable to obtain a remedy so far. And expecting companies to resist censorship on behalf of their users or business partners is unrealistic. My case, as well as documents the House has unearthed in its own censorship investigation, shows social media companies dislike the Biden administration's efforts to force them to censor users. Yet they had many other interests before the federal government. They viewed sacrificing speech as the price they had to pay to stay in the administration's good graces. Every company will face this calculus, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, in the White House. And social media companies are really the most important way that independent Americans, that citizens can get their speech out into the marketplace of debate. That's why there is so much pressure on them. The truth is that as the law now stands, federal officials have every reason to believe they can coerce private third parties to suppress speech. This is a powerful loophole that is no doubt enticing to politicians and officials of both parties, but it's wrong. Whether it affects Republicans or Democrats, journalists or comedians, conservatives or liberals or independents, and whether it goes by jawboning, coercion, pressure, or threats, this kind of censorship is wrong. And this committee has the chance to begin the process of fixing that wrong. I urge you to take it.
Thank you. We'll now recognize Sean Davis to deliver his opening statement.
It begins with censorship. It moves to the destruction of statues and monuments, and it ends with the murder of people. It begins with censorship. It moves to the destruction of statues and monuments, and it ends with the murder of people. The drive to silence speech doesn't end at a podium's edge or at the four corners of a page. It always advances toward the violent elimination of speakers. And that is because the authoritarian impulse to silence speech is driven by a totalitarian desire to seize total power by any means necessary, up to and including the murder of one's political opponents. This dynamic was made clear on a Tuesday afternoon in Utah last month when my friend Charlie Kirk was assassinated in broad daylight by a left-wing transgender ideologue who is enraged by Charlie's clear understanding and teaching that God created us male and female, that boys cannot become girls and girls cannot become boys. Charlie was murdered by this left-wing assassin who had been radicalized by demonic transgender ideology because he was one of the most bold and effective speakers in the country opposed to this evil ideology. Rather than see a nation unite against terroristic violence designed to permanently silence speech, we actually saw the opposite. We witnessed people praising the murder of Charlie. We witnessed people thanking his assassin. We even witnessed members of the United States Congress all but say that Charlie deserved it. That isn't the only recent example. The Democrat candidate for Attorney General in Virginia was revealed last week to have called for the murder of one of his political opponents. Even worse, he also said he wanted his opponent to witness the murder of his own children, to watch them die in their mother's arms. Why? To make him feel pain for having different political opinions. How many here today condemned that insanity? Or publicly recognized that someone with such a broken moral compass is simply unqualified to be a state's top law enforcement officer? We have heard the tired cliche that riots are the language of the unheard. But the reality is that violence is the language of the unhinged, and far too many people in this room are fluent in it. My name is Sean Davis, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Federalist, a conservative digital media company that focuses on politics, culture, and religion. I'm also a victim of illegal and unconstitutional censorship. My company, my colleagues, and I have been the targets of a coordinated and global multi-year censorship campaign. In 2020, a foreign government-connected outfit in the UK colluded with Google to demonetize The Federalist. Our crime? We published an article in the summer of 2020 entitled, "The Media Are Lying to You About Everything, Including the Riots." Later that year, in the midst of a close and heated presidential election campaign, government-funded efforts in the U.S. repeatedly censored Molly Hemingway, The Federalist editor-in-chief and a New York Times bestselling author who's here behind me today, and me because of our election reporting and commentary. I was censored for posting a screenshot of and a link to a Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision requiring mail-in ballots received after Election Day and lacking a postmark to be counted and presumed as valid votes. Molly was censored for posting a link to an article the Federalist published. The headline of that article, "America Won't Trust Elections Until the Voter Fraud is Investigated." But the censorship didn't stop there. We were also targeted for bankruptcy and destruction by the U.S. State Department and its Global Engagement Center, or GEC. Despite the fact that GEC was explicitly prohibited by both the U.S. Constitution via the First Amendment and its authorizing statute from targeting domestic speech, it nonetheless sought to drive us out of business by funding, developing, and distributing technologies and tools to reduce our reach, by bullying advertisers into blacklisting us and many other conservative outlets, and by coercing big tech companies like Facebook, Google, and Twitter to throttle access to our content. In essence, our own government, secretly and without any due process, charged us with thought crimes, convicted us, and sentenced the Federalists to death. The censorship efforts our government funded with our money are still being wielded against us today. I'm here today to testify about the unconstitutional and illegal censorship of my company and my colleagues. But I'm also here to help you understand the real-world consequences in flesh and in blood of the drive to silence your political opposition. It doesn't stop at the page's end. The effort to censor and silence political opposition is not the final step in the effort to usher in tyranny and authoritarianism. It begins with censorship. It moves to the destruction of statues and monuments, and it ends with the murder of people. And it has to stop.
Nobody likes Democrats anymore.
Thank you.
We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit.
We'll now recognize,
Not even black
Mr.
people
Gene
want to vote
Kilman
for us
for
anymore.
his opening
Even
remarks.
Latinos hate us.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Chairman.
we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? ¡Órale! ¡Arriba! ¡Arriba!
Tick, tick, boom. Who bringing the noise? Go, baby, we bringing our toys. Separate men from the boys. Chopper be singing, should be on the voice.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Elegamente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bolsito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal and alien amigos. So por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you el chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Bossy pops up from the tape. Ooh, it's tequila time.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know? At least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I'm not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? ¡Órale! ¡Arriba! ¡Arriba!
Tick, tick, boom. Who bringing the noise? Go, baby, we bringing our toys. Separate men from the boys. Chopper be singing, should be on the voice.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal ilegalmente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bolsito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal alien amigos. So por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you a chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Policy pops up on the tape. Ooh, it's tequila time.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I'm not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? ¡Órale! ¡Arriba! ¡Arriba!
Tick, tick, boom. Who bringing the noise? Go, baby, we bringing our toys. Separate men from the boys. Chopper be singing, should be on the voice.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El America ilegalmente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bolsito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal alien amigos. So por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you a chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Like a vandal, light up the stage and wax
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Policy pops up on the tape. Ooh, it's tequila time.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? ¡Órale! ¡Arriba! ¡Arriba!
Tick, tick, boom. Who bringing the noise? Go, baby, we bringing our toys. Separate men from the boys. Chop up the singers, should be on the voice.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Elegamente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bolsito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal alien amigos. So, por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you el chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Policy pops up on the tape. Ooh, it's tequila time.
With me and my colleagues. We knew we were going to see something was going to happen. We saw our post disappear. We saw ourselves being shadowed banned. We didn't actually know why. I would say to this day, we don't actually understand the full extent of the government effort to censor us. So I think there should be full disclosure following an absolute denial of any sort of censorship demands from government. It's totally inappropriate.
Thank you.
Even Latinos hate
Mr.
us.
Berenson,
So we need
I
new
thank
voters.
you for sharing your experience
if
of
we
being
give all these
deplatformed by
illegal
Twitter.
aliens free health
It's
care,
a
we
valuable
might be able
story
to
for
get
us
them on
to
our
hear.
side so they can
You
vote for us. They
spoke
can't
of a
even
huge
speak English,
influence that you
so
witnessed between
they won't
Twitter and the
realize we're
White
just a
House
bunch
at
of
the time
woke
back in
pieces of
2020,
shit,
and you
at
described
least
your
for a while until
understanding
they learn
that the
English and they
company's
realize they hate us
lobbyists
too.
hope to keep the White House.
I am not even
target
Mexican.
off their
I don't know why
back.
President Trump
Can
keeps
you
saying that shit.
explain
He needs to say it to my
specifically
face,
what your
Holmes. And while we're at it,
understanding of that
I'm getting
target
really
was,
tired
and
of all
are
that
you
dollar
aware
store
of any
Obama shit.
specific
It's getting
threats
old, homie.
that were
My
made?
name is not dollar
So
store
in July
Obama. Okay,
2021,
pendejo?
the, Biden
Órale!
administration
Arriba!
was preparing
Arriba!
vaccine mandates. And that's sort of what we have to understand about the backdrop here. And they knew that those might be politically unpopular. They started pressuring the companies to deplatform people like me. I mean, they've been doing this, but they upped the pressure. And
To my
that's
amigos
when
Latinos that came
Biden
into
said
El
that
America
Facebook was, quote-unquote, killing people
Alegamente,
by allowing
comprende
people like
que
me
es
or
time to go back to
RFK
your
Jr.
casita,
to
por
speak.
favor. President Trumpo is not
You
bocito.
know,
This is mucho
biggest
serious.
legal
If
protection
you don't
that social media
self-deporto and
companies
go
have
back
is
to your
what's called Section
casita
230,
soon,
as I'm sure
El
you
ICE
know,
is going to breako
where
into your
they're
casa and
essentially
arresto
immune
you
from
and all your
lawsuits from
illegal alien
users over the
amigos.
decisions they
So
make
por
for
favor,
content.
listen to
So they
President
have
Trumpo
all
and
the
self-deporto.
immunity of a
Ahora,
traditional
if you
publisher,
self-deporto, President Trumpo might
to
give you
make
el chance to
decisions
come back
over what
illegally.
speech they want
Anyway,
to carry.
muchas gracias y
and so-
adios,
Did the White
amigos.
House, do you have any kind of information or records? Did the White House specifically say what they would do to Twitter?
Yeah, well, so they specifically, they publicly said that they were going to reconsider Section 230. That was, again, in July. And they had privately said to Twitter in April, they had, based on Twitter's own records, said a really, quote unquote, a really hard question about why I was still being allowed to speak. Which, from my point of view and my lawyer's point of view, that all by itself was a First Amendment violation because it forced Twitter to start looking at me in a way that Twitter had not previously done, and that was in secret. And and I'll say this:
And again, there was no transparency.
No transparency.
As Mr. Davis spoke.
Yes. So I mean, look, I don't like what Brendan Carr did, but he did it publicly, and we can have a debate about it. What's really problematic is when
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly. Mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Has been confirmed. So I think that's a pretty basic place to start.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock, you mentioned a reporting mechanism that might be a promising idea for companies that think the government is coercing them. Can you describe to the committee how such a mechanism might have prevented a situation that Mr. Berenson just described? And how would you
It's tequila time!
There may, in fact, be certain kinds of requests to remove something that might be justifiable in certain situations if they're not coercive, but they're
There's no way to
just
sugarcoat
kind of
it.
appeal to somebody's
Nobody likes Democrats anymore.
better instincts.
We have no voters
maybe,
left because
maybe
of
not.
all of our woke trans bullshit.
But
not even black people want to vote for us anymore.
presumably it's
even
something
Latinos
that
hate us.
members
So we need
of this
new
committee,
voters.
that other members
And if
of
we give
Congress
all
might
these
be
illegal
interested,
aliens free
that,
health care, we might be able
reporters
to
for
get them on
newspapers
our
might say, well,
side so they
here's
can
a
vote
list
for us.
of all
They can't
these
even
things
speak
that
English.
the government
so
has been
they
asking
won't
that people
realize
remove.
we're
Is it
just a bunch
justifiable
of
or
woke
not? Is it
pieces of
excessive?
shit.
Does it
you
show
know?
political
At
bias?
least for a while
That's
until they
impossible to
learn
do.
English and they realize they hate us
essentially
too.
corporate secrets. In
I am not
government.
even Mexican. I don't know why
Is
President
there-
Trump keeps saying
I'm
that shit.
picking up on,
He needs to say it to my
Senator
face, Holmes.
Klobuchar's,
And while we're at it, I'm
overtime
getting really tired of all that dollar
Thank you.
store Obama shit. It's
Senator
getting old,
Klobuchar was
homie.
saying
My
is,
name is not
you know,
dollar
she's
store Obama.
worried,
Okay,
as I think
pendejo?
many of us are
Órale!
with
Arriba!
AI and things
Arriba!
that are happening there, and at least to get a label, do any of you know, are these social media companies, any of these companies capable of doing that, to be able to identify
To my
when
amigos
something's
Latinos that
been-
came into
been
El Americal
tampered with, what they
Elegamente,
are, or if it's
comprende que es
totally
time to
false
go
be
back
able
to your
do that.
casita, por favor. President
That is a
Trumpo is
separate
not
question, but a very
bolsito.
important
This
question.
is mucho
There is,
serious.
what you're asking
If you
me
don't
is the
self-deporto and
technical
go back
question,
to your
which is in the
casita
very just to do
soon,
it on
El
the
ICE is going to
candidate.
breako into your
So my
casa and arresto
understanding
you
is
and
that,
all your illegal alien
there are
amigos.
ways of
So, por favor,
determining
listen
that
to
they're
President
hard to do
Trumpo
at
and
scale.
self-deporto.
So perhaps a
Ahora.
forensic
If you
examiner might
self-deporto,
look at
President
a
Trumpo
video,
might give
but it
you el
doesn't mean that
chance
you
to
can have
come
an
back
algorithm
illegally.
reliably do it,
Anyway,
and there's
muchas
going to be
gracias
false
y
positives and
adios,
false negatives.
amigos.
There's also always going to be an arms race, right? If there's a better fake technology, better detector technology, better fake technology that evades the detector technology. I'm not up on all the details, but my understanding is right now there is no guaranteed reliable mechanism to determine.
And maybe you get into the whole question also on what's comedy, what's satire, what's opens up a whole another avenue there.
That's absolutely right. There certainly is no software you can write that says, oh, this is obvious parody, and therefore it shouldn't be taken down.
Thank
or
you.
labeled.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Professor Volokh, for both the statement you made about Brendan Carr's coercive tactics, and that wouldn't be appropriate, and for your recommendations on transparency and rules that I think would be a concept of just
Okay, making esto sure es mucho
things were
simple.
clear.
El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially El Hakimo Jeffries y El Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly. Mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Even in the case of compensation, which is an important issue to keeping competition and perfect information. I will just note that during this debate, this committee and this body passed a public health emergency language related to deceptive practice language. It was unlawful to engage in deceptive practices related to the treatment,
Ooh,
cure,
it's
prevention,
tequila time.
elimination, or diagnosis. Why do we do that? Why do we get that extra dollar? Because there were a lot of crazy things online, like fake bleach or what have you. And we wanted to make sure that we were being protecting consumers against
There's no way to
deceptive
sugarcoat
practices as it related.
Nobody likes
that was
Democrats
passed
anymore.
a very,
We have
very
no
big
voters left because
bipartisan
of all of our
support by
woke trans bullshit.
this
Not
by
even
the Senate,
black people want to
and
vote for us
became law.
anymore. Even
Okay,
Latinos
so
hate
now
us.
to this,
So we need new
Mr. Kimmel,
voters.
this larger issue. Even my
And if we
colleague from the
give
House,
all
who's
these
chairman
illegal
of the
aliens free
China
health
committee, I
care,
see doesn't
we
like the
might be
TikTok
able to get them on
decision
our
because he
side
doesn't
so they
think
can
it
vote
goes
for
far
us. They
enough
can't
in
even
banning,
speak English.
the actual
So
algorithm.
they won't
We have
realize
this
we're just a
attempt by
bunch
Carr
of
to
woke
kind of
pieces of shit.
realign the deck chairs
At least
at
for a
this
while
moment
until
that we
they
have
learn English
competition
and they realize they hate us too.
shrinking. And so that's why
I am
it's
not
so
even Mexican.
concerning
I
to
don't know
me.
why President
And
Trump
the
keeps saying that shit.
unevenness,
He needs to
we
say
had
it to my
a
face,
hearing
Holmes.
here,
And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama
who
shit.
literally
It's
said
getting
the
old,
company
homie.
knew
My name is
that it
not
was
dollar store
putting,
Obama. Okay,
elevating
pendejo?
hate speech as a way
Órale!
to
Arriba!
increase
Arriba!
the revenue for advertisers. And, I feel like that's, if a newspaper or broadcaster puts false information in the paper, the community will respond. And that person will no longer be able to.
To my
continue
amigos
business. But
Latinos
online,
that came
we don't
into
even
El
know that that's
Americal Elegamente, comprende que es
making
time
sure
to go
that
back
we
to your
don't have,
casita, por
these
favor.
challenges.
President
What
Trumpo
do
is
we
not
need to do to really
bolsito.
get
This
people
is
to
mucho
understand
serious.
that,
If you don't self-deporto
that
and go
right
back
now
to your
you
casita
could,
soon,
in a very,
El ICE is going to breako into your casa and
in a very
arresto
vertical
you
way, have
and
such
all
an
your
alignment
illegal
that
alien
that
amigos.
influence that we're talking
So,
about
por
now
favor,
not
listen to
being
President
coercive
Trumpo
is
and
actually
self-deporto.
done
Ahora, if you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you el chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Senator Cantwell, I think it's a critical issue because as the technology has changed, the entire media landscape has changed. So I think we have to update our understanding of where is the excess power being used, how is it being used, These examples you've heard today all relate to a gatekeeper in the media landscape that is a tech company. We haven't always thought of them as being part of the same ecosystem, and I think we need to do that. Because if you have such enormous power over the major ways in which the public gets news, information, can keep up about whether it's their community or if it matters of public health or national affairs, we've got to make sure that they're playing by some reasonable rules or that there's full competition in the marketplace to give people the checks and balances in the media. And that's what...
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
Are you worried about too much content being behind paywalls? Because I am. I'm worried that the more of this vertical integration, and that's why, again, I was so concerned about Chairman Carr's comments, in addition to the free speech, that if you start using this power as the FCC chairman and you just allow for all of this vertical integration, and the next thing you know, it's kind of like on the sports issue, you put so much of it behind a paywall.
Policy pops up on the
how
tape.
is the consumer
Ooh,
just
it's tequila time.
Changed by this whole change in the landscape?
It's a huge problem, and that's why we need to make sure there's adequate ways for the companies that really invest in using information and gathering information that the public wants, engaging people in public debate, and finance that and present it so it's not all dumbed down and kind of diluted in an internet where there's just such massive information flow that you can't tell fact from fiction.
You're talking about localism.
Absolutely. It's localism, and it's preventing the few companies that seem to have amassed quite a bit of power already from getting any larger and acting as gatekeepers to our public debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? Órale! Arriba! Arriba!
Circular broadcasting licenses be reviewed because in the minds of the 12 Democrats, including two on this committee, felt that Sinclair was perpetuating misinformation. We'll put that into the record, which I find...
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Alegremente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bolsito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal and alien amigos. So, por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you el chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
The button. You have to hit the button so you can hear it.
Button. Sorry, when we came to LA, I think there were maybe 6 or 7 VHF. And then if I twiddled the antenna right, I could get like 4 or 5 UHF.
Did you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I believe that I was not allowed to listen to podcasts.
Well, there
was
it didn't exist. It didn't exist.
Exactly.
Did you go online and get sources from online sources?
No.
Did you go on X or Facebook or Twitter? Did you open TikTok?
I did not.
Facebook, Instagram. None of that existed because I just find it interesting that my colleagues are talking about how broadcast TV and monopolism. Mr. Kimmerman, you talked about that, which I thought was just fascinating. That there's all of a sudden this lack of resources to find information when there's never been more ways to get information than there is today. But Mr. Kimmerman, I have a question.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially el Hakimo Jeffries y el Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly, mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
I'm a fellow at the Kennedy School. I have a...
I mean, have you spoken to your colleagues? Have you made a protest? Have you rallied the students to say, how do we get rid of this F rating? I mean, I can't imagine Harvard students would find it objectionable to have an F in anything. What are you doing about fixing Harvard?
Bossy pops up another tape. Ooh, it's tequila time.
But they have an F rating of free speech, and you're here giving us lectures on free speech doesn't exactly ring very hollow. Mr. Berenson, quick question for you. We need to put on a record. What was the outrageous things that you said in 2021 that got you thrown off Twitter? I mean, were you planning to overthrow the United States government? Were you creating a militia? Like, give me an example. Give me a flavor of the outrageous things that you must have said.
The tweet that got me banned from Twitter on August 28, 2021 began, "It doesn't stop infection."
What? Yes. So you saying that a mask, a cloth mask does not stop the spread of COVID? How dare you say those kinds of
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not dollar store Obama. Okay, pendejo? Órale! Arriba! Arriba!
Now, what accountability has been in place for that? Like, no one's been held accountable.
Well, Twitter actually
admitted, but what accountability? Because that cost you money. That cost you direct money in your pocketbook.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Elegamente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bocito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal alien amigos. So, por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you a chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
That you actually have to work for a living, and that ability to earn income was taken away from you because you dared to have an opinion on a vaccine?
I regard it as more important that I wasn't able to say what I thought. The money matters less to me. And I also have to say this. Pfizer made $100 billion selling that vaccine, and Pfizer officials cooperated or collaborated with the Biden administration. It is a scandal. Let me just say one thing. If I had been reporting on plane crashes and Boeing had colluded with the Biden administration or the Trump administration, it would be a national scandal that a Boeing official had leaned on a social media company. But Pfizer somehow got away with this.
Yeah, and her opening statement, the ranking member talked extensively about protecting free speech, but then stated she wasn't referring to hate speech. I think what maybe my colleagues mean to say is speech that they hate, because it's hate speech is in the eye of the beholder.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially El Hakimo Jeffries y El Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly. Mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
It was for a long time. If you said that on Twitter for several years, you ran the risk of being censored, shadow banned, or permanently suspended.
Well, obviously, we'll talk more about this topic. I do find it interesting that my colleagues who were totally and completely complicit during the Biden era, that were absolutely applauding people for being thrown off social media.
Ooh, it's tequila time!
Commentary about the Hunter Biden story being misinformation was considered insurrectionist. That now all of a sudden clutch their pearls because a moronic second-rate comedian who makes $16 million a year got fired from his job for having atrocious ratings is somehow now an attack on free speech. I don't know that they have the moral high ground here, but thank you for your testimony.
Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And
Thank you.
if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English.
The First Amendment.
So they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit.
Because the freedom to express yourself and speak your mind is the cornerstone of America.
I am not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not dollar store Obama. Okay, pendejo? Órale! Arriba! Arriba!
Oversight hearings that focus on protecting
this critical right from being eroded by anyone. But that is not the focus of today's hearing. Rather than providing us with a forum that will evaluate...
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Elegamente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President Trumpo is not bocito. This is mucho serious. If you don't self-deporto and go back to your casita soon, El ICE is going to breako into your casa and arresto you and all your illegal and alien amigos. So, por favor, listen to President Trumpo and self-deporto. Ahora. If you self-deporto, President Trumpo might give you a chance to come back illegally. Anyway, muchas gracias y adios, amigos.
Kimmel's comments criticizing President Trump. I was particularly concerned, as I know the chair, was from his statements calling the threat mafia-like. Chairman Cruz called the threats mafia-like. With this clear attempt to suppress speech, comedians. However, I'm disappointed that that's not what's the focus of today's hearing. Chairman Carr's later backtracking, claiming there's some sort of local community exception to the First Amendment. There's no exceptions. You have free speech or you don't. We know those limits. There's precedent for that. His comments, Chairman Carr's, were reprehensible, and his demands of full accountability. And we demand full accountability. Indeed, his weak excuses have been repeatedly contradicted by the president's own statements. President Trump has said outright that the reason the FCC should revoke broadcast licenses is because of negative coverage of his administration.
Okay, esto es mucho simple. El Democrat Party es mucho retardo, okay? Mucho retardo. Especially El Hakimo Jeffries y El Chucko Schumer. They are extra retardo. So El Presidente and I cannot negotiate with these Democrat retardos. It's imposibly. Mucho imposibly. Gracias, amigos. Oh, and make sure you El voto for LJD Vanso in El 2028.
This is government censorship by our president, plain and simple. It's what they do in Russia. It's what they do in North Korea. It's what they do in China. It is not what we do in a democracy that has a First Amendment. Those attacks on free speech, they harm not only our
Policy pops up on the tape.
Last month, it was
Ooh, it's tequila time!
Business decisions of large media companies, including tech, energy, tourism, any other industry, could be impacted. In Las Vegas, we're seeing fewer international tourists because people are afraid to come to the U.S. under this administration. People planning to travel to the U.S. see this administration detaining people for posting something online that's critical of the president in another country where they live. And they cancel their trips to America out of fear of U.S. government retaliation, and the consequences for our economy are substantial. Mr. Kimmelman, can you discuss the direct impacts of infringement on speech rights, and can you tell us what you see as the biggest threat to the First Amendment writ large, please?
I'm not even Mexican. I don't know why President Trump keeps saying that shit. He needs to say it to my face, Holmes. And while we're at it, I'm getting really tired of all that dollar store Obama shit. It's getting old, homie. My name is not Dollar Store Obama. Okay, pendejo? Órale! Arriba! Arriba!
That our democracy requires. So it's extremely dangerous. Obviously, as you point out, when the government does it directly, it is horrible. It's a First Amendment violation. It needs to be stopped. But it also can happen.
To my amigos Latinos that came into El Americal Elegamente, comprende que es time to go back to your casita, por favor. President